Before we get into today's show, I need your help because we are just 80 subscribers away from the big 13K. So help me out, hit that sub button, and in return, you get daily Miami Heat content, live shows as well. Let's get to 13,000 subscribers for R13, Bam Adebayo. If we get there on today's video, I'll do a beer bong to start next week's shows. So come on, help me out and hit that sub button. Let's get into the main topic on today's show because Miami Heat icon, South Florida icon, Dan Le Batard expects a Kevin Durant trade. Thought this quote was very interesting that I saw on Thursday morning. Here is what Le Batard who had to say. He said that Pat Riley doesn't have any reason in the world to still be working at his age approaching 80. He's not going to wait around for another young team to ferment. I have assumed that the next play is going to be trying to get Kevin Durant again. I've assumed that's the move they're trying to get in play for because I don't see a better one. And my kind of first reaction to the Dan Le Batard quote here is like, he's not reporting anything, he's speculating, but I do want to make it known that he has ties inside the Miami Heat organization. So he has working relationships with some people in that Heat front office. So when Le Batard speaks on a matter, I do actually believe a little bit. And yes, this is an opinion piece from Dan, but there is something to him being credentialed, and he's one of the few people in South Florida that when he speaks, I listen. Him, Barry Jackson, the guys over at 5 Reasons Sports Network, Anthony Chang, like all those guys, like when they speak about rumors and inside reporting, I listen to them. And I do agree with the sentiment that Le Batard shares. I've said this before on the channel, whether it be on a video or a live show, that I believe Pat Riley was going to try to go all in on a trade to help Jimmy and Bam try to win because he is getting up there in age. He is approaching 80. And if he misses out and lets Jimmy Butler walk out the front door, like, why would he stick around as the Heat president and leading man in the front office around a rebuild? Like, I just don't see that happening. It's kind of the entire reason why I thought a trade was always coming for Miami. Now, evidently, I might have been wrong in that sentiment of thinking, but the point still remains that an upgrade to this roster needs to happen if Pat Riley wants to see a championship before he ends up leaving the front office and retiring. But I will go back to the Kevin Durant talk because it's not going to be KD. As much as you might want KD, as much as I'd like Kevin Durant, it's just simply not going to happen. Durant is still one of the best scorers in the league. There's no debating that, averaging 27 or more in the past 4 seasons, bouncing between the Brooklyn Nets and Phoenix Suns. And he's been able to be an efficient scorer from beyond the arc as well. There is the question of if he's able to stay healthy. He's missed a handful of games over the last 3 or 4 seasons, but stayed relatively healthy this past year, which was a good sign. But after coming back from the torn Achilles, he suffered in his final year with Golden State, working his way back in Brooklyn. He's never been able to stay healthy and play 65-plus games like Pat Riley knows he'd want him to play, just like he wants Jimmy to play if he ended up coming to South Beach. Durant's an excellent scorer. I'd be willing to take him in Miami. I just don't think that's going to be the case. Let me know, though, would you want to trade for Kevin Durant, the Durantula, the Slim Reaper? Let me know. Type Y for yes or type N for no. It's the pinned comment on today's show, so if you get hit by a YouTube ad break, let it play, scroll down, and answer my question down below. The reason why I don't think it's going to happen is because financial reasonings. And reason number one is like you'd have to trade Jimmy Butler to acquire Kevin Durant. And you might be wondering, well, why would they have to do that? Well, it's because the Phoenix Suns are in the second apron of the luxury tax. So they are limited in what they can do in trade discussions. And when you're in the second apron, you can't have a trade that has aggregating contracts to send money out or get money in that, for that matter. So in order for Miami to match salary and make a deal with the Phoenix Suns on Kevin Durant's $51.1 million per season, you'd have to trade Jimmy's $48 million contract. And if Miami is in the business of acquiring Kevin Durant, it certainly is not in the market of trading Jimmy Butler. Now, you might say, well, Jimmy's going to be a potential free agent next year if he opts out of his player option. I'd trade Jimmy for Kevin Durant. He's got more years on his contract. The idea of adding Kevin Durant is to help Jimmy and Bam. Like, To me, in my opinion, is KD a better player than Jimmy when they're both fully healthy? Yeah, probably. But Jimmy's been a better number one option over the past 4 seasons. That's obvious. He's taken his team to the title as the number one guy twice over the last 5 years, going back to 2019-20. KD has not done that. He's been the leading guy, but he was also on a stacked roster in Golden State. So do we trust Durant to be the number one guy with Bam Adebayo as his co-star? I'm not sure. I don't think the Heat see that. Adding KD is always a move Miami would make to get him as a third or second guy with Jimmy and Bam. So to me, the question now points to this in today's show. If KD isn't going to happen, one, because you'd have to trade Jimmy, and two, the Suns probably don't even want to trade him, and they've been open about not wanting to deal KD, and they're committed to Beal, Booker, and Durant, then who can it be that Pat Riley goes out and adds so he can try to see a championship roster win a title before he ends up having to retire as he gets up to 80 years old? Well, Barry Jackson quote tweeted that quote from Dan Le Batard Thursday morning and kind of shared his opinion on the matter. Barry said that as we've told you guys / gals this month, the Heat views the February 6th trade deadline as the latest point by which they would like to improve the team via trade. If it happens sooner, great, but if it goes to the trade deadline, they're okay with that too. Let's see what star gets disgruntled at the trade deadline. I have some thoughts on the matter in just a second, but make sure you are getting some Miami Heat gear. Now's the time to do it in the offseason when there are stuff on sale. The sweet Miami Heat hat, two-tone cream, beige with the red, the two different Heat logos. $8 off right now when you go to chatsports.com/Heat hat. That link's in the description and comments of today's video. I got mine. Go get yours. The important part of that little excerpt from Barry Jackson is let's see what star shakes free at the deadline. And to me, there's no guarantee that someone will come available via trade during the deadline. I mean, how often do we see a big-time deal at the deadline actually happen? Sure, we saw it with Kevin Durant, ironically enough, a couple of years ago when he got traded at the deadline from Brooklyn to Phoenix, but it's not often that a player that makes that big of an impact actually gets dealt at the deadline. And I was doing some looking around the NBA, and I was projecting where teams were going to be in terms of their standings, what players could be available via trade if they don't reach those expectations or they want to be disgruntled and ask out. And I don't really see too many people out there. But I do have one shocking name that you might see in the form of Kawhi Leonard. Yes, you might be thinking to yourself, Kawhi? Why would the Clippers trade him? And I do still think this would be a long shot, but Leonard is now the leading man in Los Angeles after Paul George left in free agency to go to the Philadelphia 76ers. And I don't love what the Clippers have done this offseason. Yes, they brought back James Harden, they added Derrick Jones Jr., add Nick Batum, but to me, they didn't get better. They got worse, and the Western Conference is only getting better as a whole as well. If Kawhi is struggling with injuries and only plays in like 25 to 35 games in the first half of the year, and the Clippers are getting frustrated with him being out and they're in the top 10, top 15, like they're going to miss the playoffs because of Kawhi's injury. Like they don't have their own first-round pick due to the trade they made, ironically enough, for Paul George with the Thunder, because the Thunder have the right to swap picks this year with the Clippers, which they will likely do because OKC's probably going to be a much better team than Los Angeles. So if they're heading in the wrong direction, could the Clippers sneaky blow it up and end up trading Kawhi Leonard at the deadline? Now, I don't know what it would cost Miami, but what if they were feeling good about where they're at, right? They're not actually middling around. They are 5 or 8 games above 500 in the thick of things in the Eastern Conference, and they're like, you know what? Kawhi stays healthy for a postseason run. Kawhi, Jimmy, Bam, we create an excellent defensive front court with a lot of versatility and the ability to just dominate people on both ends of the floor. Maybe they do blow it up, and maybe Miami views Kawhi Leonard as their big piece and big addition where they can trade a hero, a Hawkes/Jovic, and their one first-round pick or another first-round pick to acquire Kawhi Leonard. It's a long shot. I'm purely speculating here, and I'm certain that it's very unlikely that Kawhi comes available. But if I had to look at a disgruntled star that could be on the trade market in February that you don't think would be there, Kawhi Leonard is one of the first people that comes to mind, and he would be a seamless fit because he can play a little small ball forward due to his excellent size, wingspan, and defensive versatility. And Kawhi, Jimmy, and Bam would be one of the best, if not the best, 3 through 5 defensive versatility switching type guys that we've ever seen play on one team. So let me know, would you trade for Kawhi Leonard? Let me know in the comment section, type T for trade or type P for pass. It's unlikely that it happens. I just thought it was a fun idea to talk about. But if I got to be fully transparent with everyone at home, I'm kind of running out of optimism for Miami to make a splash. Like I told you, it was bare going out there trying to see what star could be coming available during the season after a poor year with them injury-wise or with their team respectively, and there's just not a lot out there. Like you obviously had the Lauri Markkanens, Brandon Ingrams, Trae Youngs, Kyle Kuzmas, but if Miami was interested in going after them via trade, they could do it right now. So if they don't feel that way, and we take Barry Jackson's report as it is, and they're waiting for someone better to become available from now until the trade deadline, then who is it going to be? Because if they're not interested in Lauri or the other 3 names I mentioned, then there's no trade coming for the rest of the offseason, which means we got to wait for someone to come available, and we're just playing a waiting game. I'm running out of optimism that this team's going to make a major boost to this roster for this upcoming season. It's disappointing, but we're just going to have to rely on big jumps from Jovic, Jaquez, and an impact from rookie Kel'el Ware for this team to improve from last year to this year. So it's going to be bare, man. It's going to be bare. All right, that's going to do it for today's show. Make sure you are following me over on Twitter at Nic_Rohloff. Tweet about the Heat every single day. Summer League highlights, news, rumors, anything you need surrounding Miami. I'm your guy. So give me a follow. And if you DM me from this video saying, go Heat, my DMs are open. I'll know you watched this video all the way through, and I'm giving you a follow back.